Hey everybody, it's Matthew of Mr. Domestic. This video is all about creating continuous bias tape for your quilts or projects where you need some binding. A couple of videos back, whenever I was doing my easy machine binding video, I shared that I predominantly do straight cuts for my binding because in my head it was easy. But honestly, it's not the easiest way to create binding tape, and cutting it on the bias is 100% better and easier to bind in the long run. So that's where this video was born. So before we get into the content, if you like it or you're having fun or you get a tip, make sure to give this video the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So I know we all have a bunch of fat quarters in our stash, and a lot of times for me, it's preferential not to have to go spend money to find some binding. And I would never have thought that a fat quarter could have been something that I could have used as a binding fabric, but that's what we're doing here. Most fat quarters are about 18 inches by 22 or 23 depending on the manufacturer. So let's just pretend like we're pulling the best fat quarter for the binding project that we're working on. And from here, all you need is a ruler that's long enough to create a diagonal. And then I'm gonna use tailor's chalk just so that you can see the line, but oh my goodness, I think that I'd freak out a little bit by using tailor's chalk for this in real life because tailor's chalk can get a little messy, and we're going to be creating some lines. So you're going to create one diagonal line, and it doesn't have to necessarily be on a 45, but like 45 is like a perfect bias. And so now I've created this diagonal line here, right? And I just did this for you to see it before I cut it. You don't necessarily have to draw that line, but this is bias compared to straight, right? So now just right on here, I'm just gonna cut it. Right there. Now we've cut on that line, and you have two pieces. And essentially you're gonna take this over to your sewing machine and join these to a straight seam. And then after I do that, I'll come back and I will show you how to create the lines. Okay, so now I have sewn this straight seam together and I've pressed it open, and now we're going to draw lines on the bias. I prefer to double fold my binding, so I use a 2.5 inch binding for my quilts, just like that. I think it looks the best for what I like to do, but whatever length you or width you want to do, go for it. And I'm going to draw lines. I'm doing lines on the bias. This is the bias direction, this diagonal, and keep drawing 2.5 inch lines. I'll do one more in real time. And like this. And then I'll fast forward as I draw the other couple. And right here on this last part, I sliced this off. It was just a little bit of excess, and that way I won't get a little confused whenever I'm lining the lines up. And right now, just so that you can visualize it, like right here, if you were like making a tube and you weren't doing any kind of adjustments, like let's say you were making the lines evenly, right? You just lined it up like this, it's a tube, this is what you got, good to go. But in order to make this a continuous piece of bias tape, you're going to move everything over one. So I just slid it down right there, and then take some clips and clip these right here, because now that you've slid it down by one line or up by one line, doesn't matter which way you go, then now you are going to have a continuous piece. So I'm going to sew up this diagonal and then come back and do some cutting with you. Okay, so now I have sewn this. See how the lines line up? Even if it's a little off, it's totally fine, but like, look, it's gonna be so awesome. And I press the seams open, and then you just start cutting, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect, just find the way that cuts best for you. I'm trying to find it. I can't figure out which way I want to cut it. There you go. So you just start cutting, and you're not wasting any fabric here. You just cut along the line. And it's not going to be perfect, right? It's not going to be like you used a rotary cutter. But like, don't sweat it for those perfectionists out there. Because if you do the double fold technique, then all of like the janky, like jagged, raw edges will get hidden anyway, so it's no big deal, right? And so I am just going to cut along this line and fast forward, and then show you the magic. Now folks, I am coming to the end of my cutting, and I cannot believe how much bias binding tape I have just come up with. This is amazing. But let's measure it, just so you know, in case you didn't know. Boom, boom. Bias tape has stretch in it because it's on the diagonals, but let's measure it. 1, this is 24, 2, 4, 6, 8, what? Over 10 feet of bias binding tape that's continuous has been created from a fat quarter. That is mind-blowing to me because I never would have thought to reach for a fat quarter for binding. So yay, you can do it, you can do it. Now, even if you have a fat quarter and you want that binding to go around that quilt, you can do it with this quick and easy process. So if you enjoyed the video, got some loves or tips or tricks, make sure to give this video the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Keep it positive, y'all. Mr. Domestic out. Thanks for watching my video. You can subscribe on the right, just click on my face and watch some of my other videos on the left.